Here's some details on the Tegris Belt End and the Enigma belt design changes over time, and some routing options. In the Express faceplates, we have the light-bearing Express and the regular Express. On one side of the faceplate, the nylon belt is woven in and out through both these slots. On the other side of the faceplate, you will bolt in a fidlock buckle through that point. And depending on which right or left-hand configuration you have, those will flop sides. But the belt threads directly through the faceplate. On the OS series, which is the OS light-bearing and the OS standard, you have a series of holes lasered into the faceplate. And those connect to a Tegris belt end. Your nylon belt threads through this slot, and then you use a screw, post, and spacer to attach at one of these mounting holes. And varying the combination of holes can change the overall curvature of the rig, how much force it applies. You can adjust the cant and ride height by using different combinations of holes to tune the rig to fit. This is the original Tegris belt end. It has one mounting hole and it has one belt slot. You would route your webbing through it and back, and then through a tri-glide, or you have that end stitched. In the original version of the belt, the nylon webbing would run through and then be double bar tacked so that the nylon was really securely attached. This was sewn into the end of the belt, and you would make all your adjustment only at the fidlock end and then trim off whatever excess belt you had. For the Express, because we wanted it to be completely reconfigurable and adjustable at both sides of the faceplate, we switched to an arrangement where you run through the Tegris belt end, and then instead of bar tacking, you just run through a tri-glide. That way you have total adjustability about where the tri-glide sits and which side of the faceplate you want to adjust belt slack out of. This is also especially important when you have the sport belt in play, because the sport belt has two free ends because you need to keep the elastic panel centered on your back. And so it would not work if one end was stitched in and all your adjustment was at the other side. That would gradually shift the elastic panel. And so this method of belt adjustment with the Tegris belt end and a tri-glide became standard on the Express and the sport belt, and then we decided to make that standard across the OS series as well. And now we've just released recently an update to the Tegris belt end. It now has two slots. I call the one closest to the mounting hole at the tip the first slot, that's the second slot. The thing to know about the two-slot version of the Tegris belt end, which will be coming with all OS and all sport belts going forward, is that you can treat it just like the old one. You don't have to use both slots. The second slot gives you the option of adding more friction to the belt routing to reduce the chance that under certain kinds of movements or pressures that the nylon belt could slip a little bit through the tri-glide. So when you have these Tegris belt ends, there are four possible routing options. For the standard, the legacy single slot Tegris belt end, I call these inside and outside routing. It refers to where the free end of the belt sits in relation to your body. So in outside routing, the free end sits on the outside of your belt, and you would come, when you're threading it, you'd come out through the back of the Tegris, over the top, through the tri-glide, and then you have this end and you can tug on it and adjust and tighten things. But if you have too much loose end there, it can get kind of floppy, it can hang out of your belt. It's not super tidy. Inside routing goes the opposite direction and puts the free end of the belt on the inside facing towards your body. It's super clean. You don't see the free end at all. It's a little more work to adjust because you have to slack a little more material through the tri-glide to be able to change the dimensions of this loop, and then you've got to cinch your belt end along and adjust. But it's just the opposite routing. You go in through the face and then across the bottom and through the tri-glide, and your free end stays on the inside. You can do both of these exact same single slotted inside or outside routing methods with the new double slotted belt end. There's no reason that you couldn't. You can just use the first slot, ignore the second slot, treat it totally normally if you value speed and ease of adjustability highly. If you want your belt to be extremely secure and not have a chance of slipping, then route through both slots, and you have the exact same inside and outside routing options here. So you can see as we look at the underside, this is inside routing with both slots in use. So I go into slot 1, across the back through slot 2, and then route through my tri-glide. This is the tidiest and most secure routing. It is the most work to adjust because you can't just slip the nylon webbing easily through the Tegris. In fact, the edges of the nylon are rolled under because the slot is deliberately undersized to force it to stiffen up at the edges and really bite onto that belt end. So this routing is super clean, very, very secure, but takes a bunch of work to adjust. You can't easily adjust it when it's on your body, and you can't easily adjust it if it's under any belt tension. You have to sort of take everything off, loosen it up, work it with your hands. For the double slot belt end with outside routing, you would go in through slot 2, across the back, out through slot 1, and then over to your tri-glide. This is the easier to adjust version. If you're after maximum tidiness, go inside routing. If you want more flexibility for adjustment, go outside routing. However, if you are using both slots on the Tegris, this will still normally require plenty of slack and good access with both hands to adjust. It is not easy to just drag material through this double slot. It holds pretty tight. So you can use the double slot as a single slot or as a double slot. You can route inside or outside. Adjust your Enigma, make it work for you. Use those concealment mechanics, and carry safe. Thanks.